to start off, just tell me about your encounters with Fredrico Lowe-Bey. Do you remember the first time that you happened upon him or had arrested him, what that encounter was?
I think the first time we actually arrested him was, I don't know the date, was I think the 4100 block of Shenandoah. We were there for some type of investigation. Maybe it was for a disturbance, and we ended up arresting Fredrico Lowe-Bey with some marijuana.
Do you remember the circumstances of how he had it, or?
If I remember right, I think he threw it down on the ground, but I don't totally remember. It was a misdemeanor marijuana arrest.
Gotcha. Okay. So you arrest him then, and what was your impression of the guy?
Not much. Just a regular person.
Nothing stood out per se, or?
No, not at all.
Okay, so you arrest him for the misdemeanor marijuana charge, and then later that month there was another arrest for, I believe it was an assault, and you had arrested him with your partner and took him down to the station. You recall that arrest? It was late July 1987. It was a few weeks after the misdemeanor marijuana charge that
I don't remember it. I don't remember that at all.
Don't remember that arrest, taking him to the station, or applying for warrants for assault?
This is the 3rd district, one of the busiest districts in the city. We made multiple arrests every night in that district. I don't remember that one.
Gotcha, okay. That was one I believe that Mr. Lowe-Bey had filed an internal affairs complaint against you and your partner over.
Fredrico Lowe-Bey has never filed an internal affairs complaint against me.
He never filed an
No.
internal affairs complaint?
No.
But that came out during the trial for rape and sodomy of...
What came out during the trial is Fredrico Lowe-Bey's lawyer asked me if it's true that Fredrico Lowe-Bey filed an FBI complaint. He looked at, I said no. He looked at Fredrico Lowe-Bey, and he went like this, like, I forgot. And then during the break in the trial, they apparently called the FBI, and the FBI took the complaint after the trial was over.
I believe there was something there that involved a federal lawsuit, but his attorney did ask you at trial if he had filed an internal affairs complaint against you, and you said that he did. It was an internal affairs complaint over an arrest. It was a couple weeks after the...
I don't remember Fredrico
charge.
Lowe-Bey ever making an internal affairs complaint against me.
Okay. It was... He had filed a complaint, and I guess they took some pictures of him or something. He claims that you guys had roughed him up during an arrest, and then he got released the next morning.
I mean, he might have got arrested. We might have arrested him. If we did, I don't remember it.
It was deemed not sustained by the. I guess there's an internal review.
Internal affairs.
A board. They had deemed it not sustained. I don't think he appealed it. There's nothing in the record that shows that, and then it didn't go anywhere from there.
I seriously don't remember an internal affairs complaint.
Okay, so you don't remember the complaint, don't remember the arrest that was supposedly the point of the complaint.
I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I just don't remember it.
Okay. And then fast forward to the next year, it's late May of 1988, and you responded to a rape in an alley near Spring and Folsom. Do you recall
We responded to a
the
woman
scene?
screaming.
Okay, so the call was
screaming for help.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you remember responding to that scene at all?
Yes.
That morning? Tell me, what did you see?
When we got there, victim was there. She was upset, said that two persons held her down while another person raped her. She said during the course of the rape, the person didn't ejaculate, got off her, and they left. That's about it. I don't have the report with me, but I haven't read that report since the trial.
Right.
So,
understandably, it's 37 years ago. I
Yeah.
wouldn't expect you to remember that to the T.
And we took her to the hospital. Now, that's right around the corner from St. Louis University Hospital. The ambulance had to respond, took her to the hospital. We probably interviewed her at the hospital.
That's correct. So what's from the record, just to kind of refresh your memory, so she was, I guess, inconsolable at the scene, didn't tell anybody really any description, and then at the hospital is where you got the chance to interview her, and she gave you some descriptions. From that at the hospital, do you have any recollection? Does anything still stick out about how she described the guy?
No, not 100%.
Okay. And from the record, it seems like you did the interviewing of the victim and got descriptions of the three guys, but she doesn't tell you a person at the hospital. She doesn't say a name, but there was descriptions of three. I think one was more descriptive than the other, and then from that, and then the identification didn't come until, I believe, the next night or
That evening, yeah.
Right. And so can you explain to me how you would take a report and then kind of creating a police report after an incident, you respond to it, you interview the victim, and then how do you prepare the police report? What goes into that?
We basically put down what the victim says and what the what the scene looked like. But exactly what I said in that police report, I would imagine we put down what the victim said and what her descriptions were.
Mm-hmm. You're trying to like telling what happened to the best of your knowledge from the information.
The best of the victim's knowledge that she gave us.
Right. Okay. And so the description that came out from you and your partner and from the victim through the trial was that the main descriptors were a light-skinned man with a gold tooth, and that's what the victim testified to, and that's what you and your partner testified to. But on the police report that you prepared, the gold tooth is on the suspect page with Fredrico Lowe's name, but it's not in the narrative portion where it describes the more detail of the crime. So would there be a reason that it would be on one and not?
I don't know.
The other?
37 years ago. I really don't know. But I'm sure everything was brought up during the trial. So his lawyer had the full police report and some. So I don't, if there was a discrepancy, it would have been brought up during the trial.
Yeah, I believe it was brought up, and
yeah, probably so.
Yeah, but you interview the victim at the hospital, and then you go back to the station. I believe it was your shift was over, or you were already past, whatever time your shift ended. It was early in the morning.
Nothing new either.
Right, and you had said that you put out descriptions through the computer, but didn't actually prepare the police report at that time.
Right.
And then went off shift, and then when you come back on shift later that night, your partner gets a phone call. The victim says she knows the guy from the neighborhood, and then you take over the photo spread. That happens. She identifies him. And then after that, around 3 a.m., so almost 24 hours after the crime, is when the police report was actually prepared.
Probably
But that was after the identification of a man named Fredrico. But why wouldn't you prepare the police report when you got back that morning, right after interviewing the victim at the hospital?
Because we have nothing else. We got notes. We had nothing else to put in the report.
So you wouldn't. So that would be normal for you to not
Sure, we didn't.
prepare a police report,
Yeah, wouldn't be a big deal.
even though you did have descriptions from the victim.
And we put a description out over the radio.
And in that description out over the radio would have had whatever notes you had at the time?
Probably so.
Okay. But it wasn't unusual, you're saying, for you to not officially create this police report until almost 24 hours later after this happened?
Well, it actually wasn't 24 hours. I think we got the call at 6 o'clock in the morning. If you said I finished the report at 3 o'clock, it wasn't 24 hours later. But, we got off at, I guess we got off late anyway. And prepared what I could of the report. And then finished the report that night.
When you take, do you remember going over to the victim's house and you have this photo spread, it was 5 different photos, you have Fredrico Lowe in there. Do you remember her identifying him as the person who had
Besides that, we also we block out the suspects' names so the victim can't see the suspects' names. So we brought over the picture spread. She identified Fredrico Lowe-Bey, and at that time we put a warrant out for him.
Did she identify him immediately? Do you remember? Is that,
pretty much so.
she said, "This is the man who raped and sodomized me," and she was. How sure would you say you think she was?
100%.
She was 100%. It was this man. So, in the phone call, when she initially says that she knew this man's name from the neighborhood, she knew who he was from seeing him on the street.
She said she knew his nickname from the neighborhood.
Okay.
And she said his nickname was Fredrico.
In that phone call from testimony right before trial, it didn't come out at trial, it was right before the trial. The description was light complected with freckles. That she had said. She said the name Fredrico, or nickname or whatever, and then, okay, what did he look like? Light complected with freckles.
Okay, who'd she tell that to?
Your partner.
Okay.
That was from testimony right before the trial had started. But Fredrico Lowe-Bey does not have freckles. Does that hold any weight to you?
Yeah, no, here, everything is presented to a jury. A jury of 12 people got to hear all the evidence, not just us. Got to hear the victim's testimony, got to hear all the doctor's testimony, got to hear everything. So the jury believed that Fredrico Lowe-Bey did the rape.
His defense attorney never brought it out at trial from the pretrial hearing that the jury wasn't present for, and then it never comes out at trial, this discrepancy. But this man has his face is clear. You can't say that he has freckles.
His attorney should have brought it up. I don't.
But the photo spread that was taken to the victim.
I understand that.
None of the 5 people in the photo spread had freckles.
And the victim might have thought of something later on. I don't know. But she had to testify in the trial that she was convinced that Fredrico Lowe-Bey raped her.
So she picked him out immediately, and then from there you're able to put out a wanted for him.
What I did, that morning, and then I wrote the report. That morning we took all the information with the victim to the circuit attorney's office, and circuit attorney, which I believe was Angela Turner, she interviewed the victim outside of by just them two, and then this, she decided to prosecute. They decided to prosecute. When it goes from there, it goes to a grand jury. Now the defense doesn't show up to the grand jury. The grand jury interviewed the victim, interviewed, I guess, one of us, and decided to prosecute or true bill, indict the defendant, and then it goes to trial.
And then there was an in-person lineup after you arrested Mr.
After we
Lowe-Bey.
arrested him, we did an in-person lineup, yes.
And from that, the victim
identified him.
The victim identified him. So there, do you feel like that right there was enough information that you could
Arrest him. Well, we had warrants anyway.
Right, that it was enough to take that to trial. And
We don't decide that.
right,
Prosecutors decide that. They get all the information, and if they decide to take it to trial or prosecute it, they go that way.
Okay. Did you ever suggest Fredrico Lowe-Bey's name to the victim before she identified him?
No, not at all.
When you heard her description, did anybody specifically come to mind?
Not at the time, no.
You knew Fredrico was a light-skinned person. He wasn't exactly a law-abiding citizen who lived right in the area.
You know, there's a whole bunch of light-skinned black people live in that area are not law-abiding.
So it didn't. There was nothing that clicked before she had officially identified him. You'd say.
No, not until she mentioned the name.
Did you feel like there was a contentious relationship between you and Fredrico?
No, not at all.
Any animosity towards him?
No.
The way he and people who knew him describe, they describe a pretty a hatred between not just the St. Louis Police Department, but him towards the St. Louis Police Department. It sounds like it was. They describe it as this reciprocated hatred, I guess you could say, is how that played out, and that there was just this kind of this clashing between him trying to stay out of official trouble and the cops who had seen him committing crimes on the street. But you don't.
No, we have no. There's a lot of people in that area that commit crimes.
So, no ill will against this man.
No, I mean, if you do something wrong, we're going to arrest you for it. I don't, if you don't do anything wrong, we're not going to bother you.
When you were a patrolman, was there a unit dedicated to investigating sex crimes at the St. Louis Police Department?
Yes, there was.
Okay, so for what other investigation from this crime was it passed on to the sex crimes unit to investigate?
We called for sex crimes that morning, and they said handle it district level.
So they told you
handle it district level.
Handle it district level. Was that standard back then?
Sometimes they get off the same times we do. Maybe they didn't want to stay over at that time.
Okay.
I don't know.
So it was normal for them to pass it on.
We notified dispatcher office to notify sex crimes. They do. Sex crimes in this incident said tell the district to handle it district level. That's what the dispatcher tells us to do, and we handle it district level.
Okay, and at that point when they say that, is that saying that you can do like the full investigation or beyond?
They didn't say when to start. We know when to start, they don't say when to stop.
Gotcha, okay, so you're waiting for orders from
I'm not waiting for anything. We go tell our supervisors, our sergeant and lieutenant what we have. Says, they listen to the radio too. They know that sex crimes said to handle it district level, and they know we're handling a sex crime.
Was there Was that policy for the department, or was there a specific policy about the sex crimes unit investigating a
The
rape?
policy was you do what sex crime says, basically.
okay.
They say handle at district level, you handle at district level.
Okay. And to your knowledge, was there any additional investigation besides what you and your partner did for this crime?
Probably from the circuit attorney's office, but not from us.
Because there's some of the unanswered questions all this time later. There were 2 other men that attacked this woman, and nobody else was ever charged.
Right.
The suspect vehicle was never found. There was no physical evidence besides the DNA that was recovered. So there's just this like there's these missing dots all these years later that makes me wonder about what other investigation was done beyond the identification of Fredrico Lowe-Bey.
Pretty much, well, that's not the only unanswered questions from that time. There's all kinds of crimes that haven't been solved from 1987, 88.
Right. This one specifically, you have a man who's been in prison for 37 years and has always sworn that he wasn't good for this crime, and there's nobody else that could point to him besides the one eyewitness. She says it was him. It was enough to convict him, and that's that. Do you feel like there's any? Is there any doubt there that maybe there could have been something that, because of those unanswered questions, that could provide reasonable doubt?
There's always some doubt. I didn't see the crime happen, so there always can be some doubt. That's why the court always says proof beyond a reasonable doubt. You know, you can have some doubt. The jury can have some doubt. But do they have enough proof beyond a reasonable doubt? For this particular case, obviously so. And that's obviously so with the court too, because the court sentenced them. You know, the judge could say, nah, I don't know about this. The jury might have got this wrong.
Do you think the judge's the maximum sentence that he gave for 85 years
No,
made
we don't have anything to do with what the court does.
not your circus?
We don't give any recommendations to the court about sentencing or anything else. Mm-hmm. The court looks at the whole picture and what the victim had to say, what the jury has to say, what a person's past record is, and then they decide. And I think they talk to a probation and parole people before the sentencing. They do all that. They don't even talk to us.
So on the drug charge that Fredrico got acquitted of in 88 before this, he claims there was an exchange in the courtroom after the verdict. Do you remember being there in that courtroom?
I heard you say, Jim Long told me what you asked about that.
Well, this is Fredrico's word, and I have to give you the chance to respond. And his exact words of what he said, you said, were, "N-word, you ain't gonna walk the streets this summer."
Okay. And I said that in the courtroom, right?
He claims it was in the courtroom or by the door when you were leaving, something along those lines.
Okay. In front of. No, I did not do it, but common sense would say, why would I say something like that? If I would say it, why would I say it in the courtroom? So everybody, the prosecutors, defense attorneys, all the other people in court can hear me say it. It doesn't make any sense. And first of all, we're not even there when he gets the sentence or when the verdict comes in. We don't stick around. It's not like traffic court. You know, I don't know if it went to a jury trial or if it went to a jury trial, as soon as we testify, we're done. We leave.
So you wouldn't regularly attend a the hearing of the verdict or something
No.
like that? Okay. So, but you didn't tell him something
No.
along the effects of you're not going to be walking the streets this summer.
No,
You didn't say it.
no. It's a misdemeanor marijuana arrest.
Right.
You know,
You wouldn't know the victim's testimony of what she said all this time. You investigate the crime, you testify at trial to what you had to do with it. But every single time the victim in this case was under oath, there was some kind of discrepancy that came out about when she gave the officers the identification of Fredrico. She says in a deposition that she gave it at the hospital when she first talked to you. At the pretrial hearing, she said she gave the name after she saw the picture in the photo spread. And then during trial, she says she doesn't remember saying the name in the phone call. And so, but in your mind, was she?
the only time she
certain?
mentioned Frederico's name was to Jim Long that night when we got back to work. She had to know him from the neighborhood, because you got to remember this, Fredrico Lowe-Bey threatened the victim, called the victim up afterwards, after he was in jail, and threatened her. He was also charged with tampering with a state's witness.
10 days after the crime.
You know what, okay. So he had to know how to get a hold of her.
So, and that charge in your mind, what does that tell you about this case?
We didn't know about the charge until we went to trial, first of all. So I guess it was investigated after us, because we didn't know that the Fredrico Lowe-Bey called the victim up and threatened her.
You didn't know that until the trial started?
Until the trial.
Well, what do you think that says as far as his...
It doesn't make any difference what it means to me. What does it mean to the jury?
Do you think it makes him appear more guilty?
What would you think? A person, says he doesn't know a person, 10 days later he's calling her up. Or you say 10 days later.
She said she didn't know him personally. There was no personal relationship.
Right. She knew him from the neighborhood.
As you may know, there was the DNA proceedings that happened a couple decades after his conviction. And after the DNA came back and it wasn't Lowe-Bey's, the judge had the victim come in so that they could ask her some questions. And she asks her in 2006, so what did the guy look like? And her answer was, he was light-skinned with freckles, and I hated that. It was scary to me, that his freckles were scary. And here, that's what she remembers almost 2 decades after the crime, what stuck with her. But Lowe-Bey doesn't have any freckles.
Okay. I don't know I don't know. 20 years after the crime happened, 10 years after I retired, I didn't know about the 2006. What else did the victim say? Was she sure it was Fredrico Lowe-Bey?
She said, before that, she said, and you know who attacked you, she said, well, let me back up, because the judge removed Lowe-Bey from the courtroom, and it cleared the courtroom. It was just the attorneys and the judge. And the judge asked her, so you know who attacked you? She said, yes, it was Fredrico Lowe. And then a couple questions later, and she says, okay, so you know what he looked like. And that's when she says, yes, light skin with freckles. And I hated his freckles. They were scary freckles.
Okay.
And that's what I guess from the
But she was in front, that's what I'm saying. All this, they've gone in front of a court how many times? Gone in front of the judge how many times? Was it the same judge? I got no idea what judge he went to in 2006.
The DNA proceedings was Joan Berger. I don't know if that rings a bell.
I know the name. I know who she is.
And I don't know how much she considered her comments of identification, but there was also something with the DNA testing law where it allowed people to petition for it after the fact, where essentially they weren't allowed to really include the credibility of the victim that long after the fact. It would be very stringent on the subject of the DNA. So I don't know if she had to discount that or if she did at all.
That's up to the judge. As I said, this is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Okay. But you don't remember her ever saying that the perpetrator had freckles?
I don't remember. Whatever I had in the report would have been what I remembered her telling us.
But do you remember Fredrico Lowe-Bey having freckles?
No, I don't.
Okay. I mean, his face was clear.
You said in 2006 they were back in front of a judge, right? What did that judge decide to do?
Well, obviously, if we're sitting here today,
There you go.
She didn't exonerate him.
I can't sit here and say, Judge, 20 years after this arrest, you're wrong.
I'm not trying to ask you if you were wrong back then or if you made a mistake. I'm simply bringing.
I understand that, but
okay.
How many times do you get a bite of an apple? He went to trial. He lost trial. He sued us. He lost that. He went various appellate routes. He lost those appellate routes. And he went to the judge in 2006, what is that, 19 years ago, 20 years ago, and he lost that. None of these judges, none of these appellate courts, none of these judges say, something, we'll just let you go. Which I don't care if they let them go or not. That's up to the court, not up to us.
You would say, at this point, you wouldn't mind him getting out of prison?
No, I didn't say that at all. It's up to the court. If they want him out, let him out.
It's in Missouri particularly, it's very difficult to prove your innocence even if you in fact are. I'm not saying one way or the other here, but the judge ruled because the DNA. Well, first they still don't know whose DNA it was from this vaginal swab. They tested the boyfriend the victim's boyfriend at the time. Wasn't him. She said, "Oh, I had sex with this other guy."
Well, yeah, he didn't ejaculate. The victim told us that morning that the person who raped her didn't ejaculate.
Right. She didn't know, or I believe it was specifically that she was unsure, but there was just a few sperm on from the rape kit, and they didn't have tails, which could mean a couple different things. But as they're going through these DNA proceedings, the judge rules that he hasn't proven his innocence because it was the same DNA on the vaginal swab was on her underwear, and I guess the testimony was that the underwear was removed, so that would mean it was from a prior act. But then 7 years after that, his legal team found a copy of the medical report that had additional information that they had never seen before that says the victim told the doctor right after she was raped that she hadn't had intercourse for 2 weeks before the rape. And you might remember she was 7 months pregnant at the time as well.
I remember that she was pregnant.
And that was after the DNA proceedings has already concluded, so he exhausted that effort. But she told the doctor right after she was raped that she hadn't had intercourse for 2 weeks prior, and the biological material only sticks around for so long. But 2 weeks is, from my understanding, it would be gone by then if it was from a prior act.
Okay. We're not around when the doctor interviews them. Interviews a person. You're asking me a bunch of things that I have no idea about. I had no idea that went to a court hearing 2006.
Right. You didn't keep up with the case. I mean, I wouldn't expect you to.
Yes.
Do you hold any weight to the fact that he's claimed his innocence for 37 years?
Not really. I mean, you know, there again, we're not there when the crime happens. And I don't know how many other people in the penitentiary said, I didn't do what I'm in here for. I'm innocent also. No, it doesn't.
Did you ever investigate the Moore Science Temple when you were a police officer?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
No, not really. I know they were investigated, and I worked but I never had a part of the investigation.
Did you ever research Lowe-Bey's involvement with the Moore Science Temple?
I don't think his name ever came up with the Moore Science Temple.
Oh, really?
With the Moore Science Temple case.
Oh, in that case specifically, did he? But you did know that he was part of the religion back then. I think you wore the hat that they wear. It's like I don't know what it's called.
A fez?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
it.
I never seen Lowe-Bey wear a fez.
Oh, he didn't wear it back then? Okay.
I mean, he might have. I don't remember if he did.